First thing I'm going to be doing is talking with them about mutually shared ideas that will help to reduce spending and improve quality. And I'm not going to get into the specifics now. I have some ideas, they have some ideas. I really want to use these next couple of months to figure out what makes most sense, because you can make proposals in the eye of the storm that would do more harm than good, and you can make proposals that would do more good than harm. I'm trying to figure out which are which.
So do you plan on? Is distance learning at the high school level a possibility for broadening student choices and access to courses and so on, and cutting costs?
Yes.
Is that something that you'll be?
Well, we're trying to do that anyways. You know, we're trying to get the technology in every school. We are trying to increase offerings for students to have a more diverse array of choices in their academic pursuits. One of the problems is that in some of our small rural schools, it's hard to have the same offerings as you might have in a school not too far away that has a broader array of options for students. I mean, I think Rebecca Holcomb used to spend some time with the secretary, but you know, she says this better than anyone. But when you get a classroom that's down to 4 or 5 or 6 students, from a quality standpoint, forget the money for a second. First of all, it's expensive, but second, the outcomes for those students are as bad as having 40 students and having too many students in a classroom. So we have both a spending and a quality challenge. It's going to take a very thoughtful, considerate package that's going to help us begin to solve this problem. And it's not going to be easy.
Leaving aside the question of what that package looks like, do you believe that the time has come for dramatic and substantial legislative intervention in either the financing or governance system for public education?
I think the time has come for dramatic statewide partnership in helping to reduce spending and improve quality in our schools.
But you don't think that legislators need a bill this year?
No, I think a bill may well be a part of it. All I'm saying is this: we've got to stop thinking that the legislature can pass a bill and everything's going to be beautiful. We have to understand that local communities are partners in this, because they're making many of the spending decisions, and they have the tough job of trying to figure out what makes most sense in a dwindling enrollment environment for their students. So all I'm saying is, yes, the legislature needs to come up with a package that's sensible. I'm going to help them do that, but we also cannot forget that we need teachers, we need school board members, we need parents, we need local communities really asking collectively, how do we do this? And from a legislative standpoint, is our formula right now rewarding the communities that are making those tough choices? So lots of questions, answers will be forthcoming, and it'll be a collective answer, I hope.
You're about to enter your 3rd term. Do you think it would be a fair criticism for somebody to say, what's taking so long? I mean, we're going on 4 years here. You've known that Vermont has had a spending problem that whole time. Where's your plan? Where are your ideas?
Well, I mean, I just outlined some of the things that we're doing out in the communities right now that I think no administration has done so far. Just going into communities with actual real data and showing what happens both to spending and quality if we don't make some changes. I think it's fair to say that I'm not the first governor who has faced the question of property taxes that are rising faster than Vermonters can sustain. So I'm going to continue to look forward and work together with people of all parties to try and make progress on this really difficult challenge. I think if we're looking for folks to blame, sure, I'm happy to take it. But I think that really what we need to focus our energy on is how do we make real progress here, and what's sensible and what's not.
Last year you devoted your entire State of the State address to opiate addiction. Do you foresee doing that with any topic, i.e. school spending, property tax reform? This year, do you plan on presenting the legislature with specific reform ideas, possible legislation, or do you plan instead maybe a mix and match of both to see what they come up with, weigh in at that point in time, or have Secretary Holcomb weigh in? What's the back and forth with the legislature going to look like?
In terms of what the State of the State will be, I'm still trying to figure that out. And frankly, one thing I promised Vermonters is that we're going to really use this time and the message in this election to reflect to think and to listen. And so I don't know the answer to the question, or I'll tell you about what the state of the state will be focused on. It'll probably be focused on all the things that we're talking about right now. I don't think it'll be a single, I can tell you it will not be a single issue speech. Because we got a lot of, what Vermonters said in this election was a lot of things, not just one thing. And then, I'm sorry, I lost the second part of your question.
Well, essentially, are you going to be bringing a specific proposal to the legislature, having them bandy about and send it back to you, or are you going to sit back, wait, see what they come up with, and then weigh in?
I'm not sitting back and waiting, but I also don't want to, I think this has to be a partnership. And I don't think, I've watched, efforts to try and improve get our hands around this problem. I've watched them succeed and I've watched them fail. And last session was a great example of not really moving the ball as far as we wished. So I think my job as governor is to bring people together, figure out where we can get consensus on ideas, and then go from there.
The legislature this morning got an update on where the RAND Corporation research is going. Have you been briefed, have you heard anything so far that leads you to think this is a good idea or not a good idea to move toward legalization?
As you know, they won't submit their report until January. I think they're doing a great job. They're really looking at both the negatives and the positives of legalization. I'm grateful, as I've said before, that we have Colorado and Washington State that went first, but now we have, as I understand it, other states that are going to join up. So it's really something Vermont needs to take a good hard look at. I think the RAND study will give us the data that we need to be able to make an informed decision about what works, what doesn't, what they've learned from their experiences in town.
So you haven't been briefed so far on what they
No,
are?
I have not. I have not.
This year or not, do you think, for that debate?
I think we should see what the report says and then take the temperature of some of the legislative leadership and see where we are. It's too early to say.
Well, you did say during the campaign that you lean in the direction of...
Yeah, if you're asking me whether I support legalization, the answer is yes. The question is what.
Would a 1% decision, second round of budget, would that do it? Would that be enough to address the lagging revenue problem for at least the short term?
Hard to say. I mean, what we don't know about the last 4 months' revenue is, do we get surprised next month or the month after in some of the income tax receipts? There's some, if you talk to 3 economists, you'll get 3 different answers. But the fact is, when you look at the 16 budget, we have a structural deficit in the midst of that. We made assumptions about spending, a lot of states did this, about revenue and economic growth that were rosier than what's happening in America. And in Vermont, if you look at the projections going forward, and this is true of most of our region, those assumptions are lower than they were when I was writing budgets 2 years ago. So we've got to correct the structural challenge that we have, and my budget will, it'll be tough, but it will recommend a budget that makes sure that we does everything we can to make sure that we're not back here next year with another big challenge.
And might that solution include some kind of way to enhance revenues or increase them, either through a new revenue stream or?
You know that my first choice is to cut. And the problem with revenue is that, as we've seen, particularly the income tax revenue has been very spotty in terms of its predictability. So I really do think that we've got to match spending, growth in spending, with Vermonters' ability to pay, and that's where I'm starting.
Right, but I mean, you could create that alignment in any number of ways. During the first round of decisions, you said we're not going to raise new revenue. As you look ahead now with the evolved understanding of the scope of the problem, is revenue something that you're leaving on the table as a potential solution for at least part of the problem?
I hope not.
But that's not an absolute.
Well, I never have said absolute. I mean, I'm not, one of these Tea Party folks who takes the pledge. You know how I feel about this. Nothing will change my feelings about taxes.
But for 31, you were pretty adamant, right? That you would not include new revenues as a means of solving that problem.
Right.
But as you look ahead towards what sounds like will be a second rescission,
I do not believe that we need revenue to deal with the challenge we're facing right now, which is roughly a $10 million challenge.
in a $100 million challenge? And
The $100 million challenge, again, I would like not to use revenue. That's my first choice.
Great, thank you, everybody.
Thanks.